The first phase was sort of identifying that there was something with the big issue. There was this, what we call an intention action gap. If you ask people what they thought about the big issue and if they would buy one, they'd probably say to you, yeah, of course, big issue, I think it's a good cause. But the reality was that big issue sellers were only selling like 4 to 6 magazines a day, and like the numbers were declining, and like people weren't engaging with it. They weren't actually engaging with it by purchasing products. So we decided to go out and do research into this and look at like what was going on, what was the behavior that was going on the street, like how were motorists, how were people responding to big issue vendors. And we saw that there was this complete lackation or disengagement from the big issue vendors. People would just automatically assume that they were any other street vendor and they just didn't want to deal with them at all, and they kind of shut them off and ignored them. And so we thought, okay, well, we need to do something, a nudge, an intervention, in order to engage people and to get them to purchase big issue, to close their intention of supporting the big issue to an action of actually buying a magazine. So then we designed the smart.
Cool. So then I think an important thing to add is that we look at a lot of academic research around these observations that we do. So we go out and, as Seb mentions, we go out and do this ethnographic research, but then we kind of combine that with, these academic findings. And we use that to build what we call behavioral tactics or nudges. And so in this case, we were looking at the design of the big issue bib and how we could use behavioral insight to design this bib in the most effective way. So one of the things we looked at was this idea of personalization. So we went and interacted with each vendor and we found out their story, the reason why they were selling the magazines, why they were doing this program. And each of them had really interesting stories. Some of them just wanted to get their kids through education, others wanted to start up their own sewing business, and they all had these sort of purposeful stories. And we thought that this was a really powerful thing that we wanted to tell people about. The second kind of thing was goal orientation or goal visibility. We wanted people to feel like they were helping the big issue vendors to strive towards a certain goal. And so how we did this was we had tangible cards that said I have to sell 6 more today in order to reach my goal. And that goal relates to that kind of long-term goal of their story at the top of the bib. And then we also, one of the big insights from the research was that people just aren't carrying cash around anymore. And so we partnered with SnapScan to kind of go around this bottleneck. And so that really helped us to get around the sort of barrier of people not carrying cash, or if they were carrying cash, the inconvenience of them asking for change, not having enough, counting money in their cart was a real kind of struggle, a real hassle factor. So the results were actually really, surprisingly really good. It was the first time that they had sold out magazines in over a year, which was awesome. We did a cross-section between the month that we brought out the bibs relative to the previous year. So kind of year-on-year cross-analysis, and then also looking at relevant to the 2 previous months. And we saw a significant increase over that sort of cross-section, which was great.